Hi, this is Zach here with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe for Friday, the 7th of November. Starting off with the FTSE 100, which is in a slightly dodgy position at the moment because we've got that uptrend line there from last month. That's a 96.80. You need to stay above that on an end of day close basis. There's a bit of bearish divergence there as well. So higher highs early this week versus October and a lower RSI trace. So probably looking for 95.74, which was the initial November support there for this market. Even if then we go back up again, ideally though we stay above 96.80, head to that the top of that June channel there at 98.40, and then by Christmas, festive cheer, get up to 10,200. But if we do break below 96.80, then 95.74, a potential risk for this market. DAX is next, and it hasn't been quite as chirpy as the FTSE in the recent past. Here you can see that once again we're falling below that rising trend channel from April. The line there around 23,700, below that, looking at the 200-day moving average, 23,300. The other issue here is that we've had at least two failures below our at and below RSI 50, so that is a continuation signal on the downside. In terms of the upside, we want to see this market break that October resistance line there at 24,100 on an end of day close basis. The Dow is next, and here you can see that we've got this market hopefully appearing on the screen, and here it is. Yes, we just managed to miss the top of that May rising trend channel from last year, 48,300. Risk now of a test of the 50-day line, 46,300. But at least while we're above that, looking relatively stable. The issue, though, is that if we break back below that 50-day line and below RSI 50, then we could have a more full-blooded retracement down to 45,300, which was last month's support. On the upside, need to get back through the 47,500 area to get us back on track for hitting the top of that channel. The cryptos are next, and here you can see that not looking great in terms of Bitcoin. We failed at the old October support around 104 and 103,600, and we've got the chance of not only a retest of 98,000, which was the June support, but then down to May support around 93,000, and we really need to see an end of day or end of week close back above 104 to get us out of that negative streak. 200-day line still rising, but the 50-day line has been failed at twice and is falling, so to accelerate on the downside. Another RSI failure, in this case in the upper 30s, which is also not a great look. For Ethereum, we're looking at a situation where, again, we're struggling near the 200-day line, which has been lost. That's at 33.92. Below that, we've got a potential retest of 30, just near towards the 30.76 level, and below that, then support on the way up at 29.10. But ideally, we get back above that 200-day line, maybe over the weekend or early next week, to negate the negative setup here below 3,500. Gold is next, and here it's been consolidating over the course of the week. We're still bouncing at the top of that rising trend channel, the black one there from April. That's around 39.60. Above that, we've got resistance around 40.50, and then resistance up at 41.60. 41.60 currently the best we're expecting, even though we've had a double bounce for the RSI in the mid-40s. Most likely thing here probably is at least a brief test of the 50-day moving average. That's at 38.68. Moving on to the stocks, and not many to choose from, bit of a quiet Friday, but Amigo is next, just breaking through recent resistance. Obviously, one looks at the stock with trepidation, to say the least. At 0.43, the resistance broken. I suppose we're looking for a best case scenario where we fill that gap up to 0.63 or 0.62 by the end of the month. But obviously, with Amigo, you take everything with a pinch of salt. Moving on to Blencowe, where there seems to be an interview with the CEO almost every day. Here we're in a bull flag, hopefully the bull flag near the highs, looking for 8 pence, which is 4-year resistance, and hoping for that by the end of this month, depending on how many interviews the company serves up. In terms of support, we've got the 50-day line there at 6 pence, so above 6, looking for 8 on that situation. RSI in the upper 50s, which is a good place for further improvement. Moving on to First Tin, and here we hit our target yesterday. That was just above 9 pence, hit it on the nose. Still holding that gap there at 8 pence, which is a good sign and suggests that we have a bit more gas in the tank. Obviously, a lot more gas will be required End of day close or a weekly close above 9.1 pence is required to get us up to the next level up there, which is 15 pence, which at the moment seems a bit ambitious. The other point to note, I suppose, is the way that the RSI remains in the upper 50s at the low, so that does look like a strong situation, and support has obviously come in above the 50-day line since back in August. Another day, another rise for Hydrogen Utopia, where it looks as though the possible message that the company is funded until the first deal appears seems to be taking shape and being embraced by the market. Here we've got the first target around 2.7 pence. Above that, looking for a best case scenario target by the end of this month at 4 pence, basically retesting the June resistance. The key here is that we stay above the October peak at 2.1 pence, and you can see that triple RSI 50 rebound, which tends to be a leading indicator on the upside, and so far has worked well in that vein. Moving on to ITV, and here you can see that we managed to gap up through the 200-day moving average, just resting on it at the moment. Rather disappointing, given that 1.6 billion could be in the kitty, but this is ITV, and it's always loath to move up, just basically stock in a range for ages, years perhaps even. But I want to see an end-of-day close above that 200-day line, just below current levels, to give us a chance at least of hitting the top of the range and the top of the channel there from November last year, as high as 88 pence. But that has to be regarded as the best case scenario target. The stock obviously is a specialist in disappointing the market, even with the good news, the type of good news that we've had today. Moving on to Oracle Power, and here we've had a brief test of the 50-day line there at 0.033. Above that, looking for the next level up, which is up to 0.058, and hoping for that in the coming days. But you can see there's quite a lot of resistance in that zone, so something special maybe needs to be announced in order to get the shares through that. But at least while we're above that 50-day line, we are on a bullish tack for that particular situation. The rug was definitely pulled at Pensana after a great run, and here trying to find the bottom of that channel. We've maybe gone a little bit below it. The low yesterday around 93 pence. Want to see the shares back on the right side, at least a decent amount of above the £1 level. The line there around 102. Above 102, looking for the 50-day moving average at 129 by the end of this month as a best case scenario target. Obviously, as I said, want to stay above the £1 zone, which was the late October support for this market. On to the last two, and the first one is Seeing Machines, and here I think we had a decent announcement yesterday, a mid-move consolidation breakout through 3.75 pence. Above that, looking for the top of the range and the top of that channel there from February this year, size 4.7 pence by the end of this month. Finishing off with Tungsten West, which had some processing news, which is rather boring, but at least we managed to gap up and bounce above a rising 50-day line, double RSI 50 bounce as well. So looking for 14 or maybe 15 pence by the end of this month, while we're above that rising 50-day line at 9.6 pence. That's it for me today. More updates over the weekend.